I think it's 6:31. I think we have everybody here. Thanks to the board for being prompt. It's, again, 6:31, and I'm opening the regular September meeting of the BET. And I think the first order of business is call to order, Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just one housekeeping note. We are, this meeting is being recorded and is also live at 8 o'clock. The recording will continue, but 8 o'clock we will no longer be live because this station's going over to the RTM meeting that starts at 8 o'clock. Okay, so this is, it does happen now and then, but it's pretty irregular that both meetings are the same night. But on this night, the RTM and the BET, both those meetings occur. Okay. So item 2, requests for budget adjustments. These are routine applications. There are 5 of them. And typically, the clerk reads the items, and then we vote, and we have no discussion. There is one item here where there's an amount that will be edited. So we will need a motion on SE3 to edit the amount, and that number will go through in a second. So, Anisha, can you read off the items?
Sure. The first is FT1.
No, I'm sorry. I think motion to move these items?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Leslie and Jeff.
That's FT1 is the first one, which is the fire department's approval to use the FEMA grant in the amount of $53,900.
TC2.
Let's read all of them. All right.
Yeah.
TC2, town clerk approval to use the Secretary of State grant in the amount of $24,596.67. SE1, first selectman from the department, the first selectman's office settlement for Mason versus Town of Greenwich in the amount of $20,000. SE2, from the first selectman's office settlement in the USAA Lusars versus Town of Greenwich, $10,427.39. And SE3, first selectman's office settlement of USAA and Rosen versus the Town of Greenwich, a settlement in the amount of $29,760.46.
Okay. On SC, thank you, Nisha. On SC3, can I get a motion to amend that number to 29? Oh, sorry.
So I will move. There was just an error in the posting of the agenda, just a transcription number. So SE3 is, the motion is to amend that number to be the actual number of 29,706 and 46 cents, which was the amount that was approved by the Budget Committee.
Okay, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Jeff Raymer? Okay.
I just wanted to note that it was corrected on the website, so the correct number is on the website currently under our meeting materials.
Okay, thank you very much. But that correction happened today, so that's the reason. Yeah, thank you very much, Karen. Okay, any objections to changing the amount? Okay, that passes by unanimous consent, 12-0-0. Any objection to passing these 5 routine applications? Hearing none, those pass 12-0-0. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move
Leslie?
that we go into executive session. Is that what you want to do? Executive session, and that it be an executive session for schools for safety application, and which is applicable to the 3 applications here.
Okay.
I'll
And-
second.
Oh, second, okay. And as a clarification, there were 4 items listed below. The conservation CC1 will not be part of the executive discussion, just the first 3. Okay, any objections? That passes at 6:35 PM, 12:00 to go into executive session. Okay? Okay, right now it's 8:16. Okay, the BET has finished its executive session previously with our friends from the police and the Board of Education. After that, we adjourned to caucus, where members of BET discussed the issues involved. And now we are back in public meeting to discuss and vote and take action on the next item. So it's item 4. There are 4 routine applications, and the first one is ED1. Can we get a report from our budget chair?
Yes, so I will move ED1, which is an appropriation for the Board of Education, $619,800, an additional appropriation, which is for monitors for the BOE safety program.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Tarkington, seconded by Moriarty. Thank you. Okay.
So give the committee
Yep.
report. This item was presented by Police Chief James Heavey, Greenwich Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Tony Jones, and Board of Education Chair Kathleen Stowe. The Director of School Safety, Tom Babowski, was also present to answer Budget Committee questions. This application was the first of a 3-part request which dealt with the hiring of 15 campus safety monitors. The monitors would be deployed at the 11 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and Windrose. It was pointed out that the Greenwich High School was adequately staffed for safety reasons and would not be needed for this program. Ms. Erickson asked for the public record for an explanation of the status of an outstanding union issue about campus monitors replacing current existing duties being done by LIUNA workers. Ms. Stowe responded that the issue is currently being addressed with the Human Resources Director, Jonathan Budd, and the matter had not been resolved to date. Ms. Aurora asked why the issue of safety at Greenwich schools wasn't addressed previously. Dr. Jones responded by saying recent events prompted a closer look at school safety. Police Chief Heavey added that the school safety was addressed previously at the high school, but not at some of the other schools. Ms. Aurora introduced the subject of why aero safety security was selected. And again, Ms. Tarkington expressed that the matter of settling the LIUNA issue of hiring outside security personnel has not been settled. Ms. Moriarty reported that the 2 of the RTM committees did not support this application. She stated that she was also concerned that a delay would adversely affect moving forward to hire an outside security firm for school monitoring. She advised or requested that the BOE chairman and school superintendent move forward in the continuance of the process. So the committee voted 2-0 to approve this application. So the motion failed.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend the item and And my motion would be to amend the item to defer it, the item to the next BET meeting, either in October or a earlier scheduled special meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Dan Ozesmir, seconded by Nisha Arora. So I'll just give a little background to that. The reason for my motion to postpone is that, first I want to say that I think this board is very supportive of the security initiatives that have been put in front of us by both the police chief and the Board of Education. Later on, we'll be voting on 2 other items, which I believe the board will be able to approve today. But item ED1, which would be $619,000 appropriation for monitors at the middle and elementary schools, which are a total of, I think, 15 schools with, I think, Winrose included, to have a full-time monitor there to assist in security. This is an item that, again, I think has had broad community support. What's really come up in the last week to 10 days is that there are potential issues with our unions, or LIUNA union, because that union has right now, I believe, 10 security guards at Greenwich High School, and they have approached the Board of Ed, the superintendent of schools, school HR, and also the BET, and said they feel that, these jobs could be jobs that should be, within their bargaining unit, and they should be represented. Right now, obviously, the BET can't take a view on that, whether, the merits of that case, but I think the fact is, we want to have good labor relations. I think, all of our town boards want to have good labor relations, and of course, we're Greenwich here, we want to get it done right. We want to make sure that as we go on this program of enhancing security, it's done in a proper way. And to that regard, the Board of Ed, through Jonathan Budd, head of HR, has been having discussions with LIUNA. We certainly hope that they will quickly come to a reasonable solution, but we certainly feel that it's really important that that is resolved before we go ahead. And to give people an idea, if we would approve this as is, we would be, using a third-party vendor, which could create a grievance. If we have discussions, there may be a way to, create a solution that would keep the unions involved. So that would be the reason of postponement. I would also note that the RTM started meeting 22 minutes ago, and, clearly trying to explain all these discussions to them in this context, I think would be, pretty difficult for the RTM. So certainly, as Chair of BT, I will say that, when there is a solution in front of us, we will call a special meeting. Hopefully the RTM may potentially be able to have a special meeting if really necessary. Otherwise, we would be able to resolve this in October. So those are my statements. Thank you. Leslie, did you?
Yeah,
I'll make a couple comments, because this one's a very difficult issue for me personally, and I'm sure for many members of this board. I think the safety and security of our students is the foremost concern that we all have, and we need to address it. And the world has changed, lives has changed, and we need to continue to change how we address the safety and security in our schools. And I'm really appreciative of how closely the Board of Education, the school administration, the chief of police are working together to do the best they can with the resources they have. They've come to us and say they don't have sufficient resources in certain areas and need to improve the delivery of services. I know personally I want this to move ahead as quickly as possible. I know many of the parents and staff want this to move as quickly as possible, but it can only move as quickly as we can, right? There are issues that need to be resolved. That being said, as a member of this board, I want to figure out how to make the strongest statement possible that I support this initiative as quickly as possible and to do it in the most effective way, affecting in terms of delivery of services way, not our typical other aspects that we discussed. So I have to say, I'm not quite clear exactly how personally I'm going to act on this particular motion, but I do know that the concerns that I've just expressed are shared by many people, if not everybody at this dais. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeff Raymer, and then Leslie Talkington.
I won't be voting in favor of the continuance of this matter to the October meeting or to a special meeting. I'm grateful that the chair reflects that from his conversations with the 12 of us that he believes that everybody supports the initiative for the monitors. I hope that's the case. At the end of the day, you know who supports it and who doesn't by the votes that take place in the end. We've heard from some people indicating that they'd support it, but they're uncertain about whether or not we were talking to the correct private vendor. We've heard from others that we'd support it, but we want to be sure that there's a resolution of labor issues along the way. These may all be observations in good faith, or maybe not. It's easy to find an excuse for a reason why you didn't support something. In the end, you supported it if you voted in favor of it and supported it in fact. So the question then will become what will happen in the end. To my mind, I see no harm in voting in favor of $619,800 for this initiative and not to micromanage schools administration on the expenditure of operating monies. The BET normally does not have the power to dictate monies. Let them resolve the question about whether or not there's a labor issue. Let them resolve the question about whether or not they have the correct vendor. Let them handle the funds to, as expeditiously as possible, come up with the initiative to have the monitors using their good judgment combined with the good judgment of our capable chief of police. And at the end, we'll get the best resolution. Will it get done necessarily for $619,800? I haven't any idea. If it could be done for less, I'm sure they'll bring it in for less. Probably it'll be done for a bit more, in which event they'll come back to us with a request for some further interim funding, which they'll justify to us. And at the end of the day, I'll vote in favor of that too. So my vote here tonight would not be in favor of the continuance if given an opportunity to do so, which means were the motion to continue to fail, I would vote in favor of these funds for the matter to move forward expeditiously. If it's continued, it's obviously going to be delayed. The outcomes are delayed, and the outcome in this case means that I have monitors in place for the protection of school children. A little later, a little less, just not quite as well done as it would have been if we would have moved forward enthusiastically at the outset. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes, yes, I think that the issue that our chairman raised about grievances in the unions could also be expanded for unfair practices violations too. So I think addressing that, but I think what's most important is I certainly support security for the schools, and certainly that's been quoted, I guess, in the press. That's very important to me, security for everyone. Would also include the staff and others associated with our school system, not just the students. And I also would like to point out that this request that came in on ED1 was very specific as to the program approved by the BOE on 8/29/2022. So I just want to make that point and end their vote. And also, I welcome the participation of Dr. Budd and his involvement here. I think that's critical. And it's good to see things move along as much as they have over the last, whatever it is, not quite a week, I guess. And I welcome, as soon as something can be resolved, it coming back to the BET.
No further questions. Can I call the question? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Bill.
Mike's on, right?
Yes.
There's unanimity on this board that school safety is important. Ms. Moriarty just made a very statesmanlike comment with which everyone agrees that it's important. It's certainly important to every 12 of us and the 4 people in front of us and everyone in this town. But that doesn't mean we should vote for this item, which risks a prima facie violation of a contract with Lyunas signed by this town, and a prima facie improper labor practice. The urgency of providing safety to our school does not extend to that kind of governance. So this board should vote against this item. Proper governance will bring it back in a month.
Okay. But you spoke to support the postponement? Okay. And just one thing I would add, we also thank, in terms of cooperation, we certainly thank the police chief indicating that for the next few weeks, as this is worked through, that the police chief will do everything he can to provide extra police, just as he did at the end of last school term. So, everybody is really working together to get this right. And I think that, we're certainly excited to improve the security. So, thank you. Okay, sorry. Nisha, David, and Laura?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to explain my no vote at the Budget Committee meeting, because there was some discussion around that. So I voted no specifically because, this specific ask for ED1 is for $619,000 for Arrow Security, which is the firm that the Board of Ed has approved to move forward with campus monitors. In the RTM, there was an RTM meeting on Monday night, the night before our Budget Committee meeting, and there were some concerns raised about this security firm. And upon doing my own research, I also found some of those same concerns on public domains, which any individual can review. So I did bring those up at the Budget Committee and asked both Chair Stowe and Superintendent Jones to comment on what level of due diligence had been done on this particular firm. And the response was that there was some reference checks done, and there was comfort level from the board and the superintendent that this firm was adequately selected. In terms of criteria that was used, what we heard on our end was that cost was the driving factor in selecting this firm. There was another firm that had applied, which was about twice the cost. But my response to that was, perhaps the lowest cost provider is not always the best option, especially when it comes to security and our children. So I guess I would love to hear if there's any more color from Dr. Jones or Chair Stowe in terms of specifically, these are questions I got from parents. What kind of reference checks were done on this particular security firm? Was it, noting that this security firm does not operate in Connecticut currently, from my understanding. So is it other schools? Did you reach out to other principals? What kind of was the dialogue? And do you feel that the reference checks that you have in place are sufficient?
I just have a question. Does that apply to the original motion or the motion
Well, I'm not sure if we're going to come back to the, I just wanted
Well,
to be
we
very.
will ultimately
Okay.
come back.
I can hold off on that when we come back.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So David, David, and then Laura.
So I have no reason to doubt the sincerity of my colleagues who state that they support safety for our students and security for our schools. Everyone, I hope, in this community would agree with that. But like many of these issues, the devil often is in the details, and the questions come up about cost, and the questions come up about other aspects of this. What we're faced with here is that the chief of police, in conjunction with the superintendent of schools, has worked in partnership to jointly present to the BET and to the Greenwich community the need for campus monitors. I think that's a a consensus view and little debate on the need for campus monitors. There are some aspects of this that certainly need to be ironed out, and they've been mentioned earlier. My approach would be to appropriate the funds, recognizing that as Chief Heavey and Superintendent Jones have worked together to this point in partnership to address the needs of security in our schools, they will continue to do so within the scope of what's permissible under the labor rules and the state accordingly. Under any scenario that I can envision, the cost would be $619,800. As my colleague to the left just noted, the alternative was twice as much, and she expressed some view that that might be acceptable if they were determined to be a better alternative. So there's consensus in the community that campus monitors are needed. There's consensus in the community that safety and security of our students is essential. And there's a consensus in the community, I think, that the cost is going to be $619,000 or more. Hence, I see no reason to defer this vote, recognizing that these issues that are still remaining to be resolved will get resolved as Chief Heavey and Superintendent Jones have worked so well together up until now. So I will join my colleague, Mr. Raymer, in opposing a motion to defer. Thank you.
Laura?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chair, through you, I'd like to ask a question of the Board of Ed, and that is, recognizing Leslie Tarkington and Nisha's point that the Board of Ed has actually forwarded a fairly specific proposal. When might the Board of Ed consider an alternate option? What is the earliest opportunity they could do so, if that's okay with you?
Yes, thank you. If it's green, it's on. Maybe the battery.
I can be louder. No. Use the mic. You don't hold it down.
How about, do you want to try that one? Sure. Or you can, use this one up here. You could do that too.
Exactly. Now this works. Oh, there we go. It's a good question. So we could take it up on as early as Thursday night. I could certainly, we have a business meeting, so we could add it to the agenda. And I could do that as early as tomorrow, because I'd still have more than 24 hours. We have a posted agenda, but I could certainly add that. And then we could take public comment on it as well, of course, because it would be posted in a timely manner.
Thank you, Kathleen. Karen?
Yep, I'm listening to the comments made so far, and I would respectfully disagree. We are not solving the problem of campus monitors by appropriating the money that was requested for this RFP tonight. We don't know what the program will ultimately be. We don't know whether we will be hiring an outside firm or we will be hiring permanent employees. We simply don't know, okay? We do know, though, however, if we do appropriate and if they do decide to hire an outside vendor, quite frankly, as soon as the money is appropriated, we've taken action, and I do believe that the union can and would file not only a grievance, but a prohibited practice claim, and that's clear. And the issue there is it will cost us more money because we would have to buy out a contract if that is the route that the BOE is going, and also a settlement with the union, which could include things like back pay, et cetera. So I don't see how this board, as fiduciaries for the town, can just say, well, let's appropriate. We'll worry about the details later. I don't think we've ever done that with any contract or any type of settlement or anything like that in our history. I mean, I can't think of one. We've always asked for the contract. We've always asked for details. We've always asked for information relating to the cost of what we were spending. But basically, we're saying, let's throw the money in. If it costs more, fine. We'll deal with it later. That's not the way to act as a board. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, comments. Can we call the vote, Nisha, please?
Sure.
I'll start with,
To,
Motion to
to
defer.
October or a previously scheduled special meeting?
October 17th, which is our next meeting, or a special meeting earlier.
all right, the motion to defer, I'll start with Stephen.
I'm voting against the motion to defer for the reasons expressed by Mr. Weisbrot and Mr. Raymer.
Miriam.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes to defer.
Jeff. Leslie Moriarty.
Voting yes.
Leslie Tarkington. Yes. Dan Azizmir. Yes. Nisha Aurora, yes. David Weisbrod.
No.
Karen Fasciolotis.
Yes.
Laura Erickson.
Yes.
And Harry Fisher.
Yes.
I think that's, I have 3 noes, 9-3. 9-3 is 9 yeas, 3 noes, so the motion passes. The motion to defer.
Okay, the motion to defer? The motion, okay, and now can we have a, that's the motion to amend, passes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
I
We're
didn't inject
deferring it.
before. It was
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
just a motion to defer,
quick.
and that is taking care of the item. Yeah.
That disposes of the item?
Dispose of the item for this meeting.
I finally
Yeah, yeah.
learned the right
Okay,
wording. Thank you, everybody. And I want, that certainly, there's a lot of discussion around this. I do want to thank this board for, I think, taking, a good action here to move this forward. I want to thank our guests here for bearing with us and answering our questions. I think it was a really productive discussion. Thank you.
Not so fast, we still have to finish.
Yes.
Parliamentarians that are your members, when we leave now and go to the RTM meeting, but this particular item doesn't go any, I just want to try to. how to
Correct.
communicate it.
Yeah, we have to go through the other 2 items.
we have 2 more
but ED
items.
Yes.
I think it's
ED1,
fairly
and I will
certain.
inform Alexis. She's waiting for my, okay, thank you. Okay, the next item is ED2.
So ED2, for the Board of Education, $400,835, an additional appropriation for security cameras and hardware for BOE safety program. So,
I would move the item.
I moved it as chairman of the Budget
Okay,
Committee.
all right.
Second.
So is it second? Jeff is seconding it?
We have sometimes.
Okay, so this application is for security hardware and cameras. Mr. Geiger offered that it would be appropriate to put it into capital accounts for now, and, it might be reviewed in future budgets. And these funds would be appropriated from the capital non-recurring fund. The committee voted 4-0-0 to appropriate the $411,000 for security hardware and cameras, again, from the capital non-recurring fund.
Thank you, Leslie. Discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, can we approve this by unanimous consent?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that passes 12-0-0. Next item is PD1.
So PD1 for the police department, $411,000, an additional appropriation for police overtime for BOE safety program. So,
I'll second that motion.
okay. So, Leslie second. So Chief Heavey explained that the town normally has 11 patrol officers on duty during these school hour periods, and that this request would be to add 3 patrol cars in the east, west, and central sectors. Ms. Moriarty pointed out this application and the funds would be allocated to the police budget, but the additional police would be for school purposes. The committee voted 4-0-0 to appropriate $411,000 for Greenwich Police Department overtime. And
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes,
I
Leslie?
just have one question to the police chief through you, Mr. Chairman. In a discussion, I heard mention of journal vouchering some of your expenses. Are you, as we appropriate this to the police department over time, this would then hit your department your expenses, and it wouldn't be then charged back to the Board of Education. I just want to confirm that that's consistent with how your current practice is.
Correct, although the superintendent and the chair of the board of ed will have to discuss if we add, in addition to those current plan is proposed, how that, how we can fund it. This is for the 3 additional officers to provide additional security, which we've implemented since the beginning through my budget.
Right, so this is started beginning of the school year, and you're referring to potentially increased security provided to the schools, and you'll determine within your own budgets where that charge gets carried
Until the resolution of the campus.
of the other issue. And we appreciate you putting resources into that, because it's not just money resources, it's staffing resources, like you certainly understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, can we approve this unanimously?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes, the item passes 12-0-0. Thank you. Okay, our next item is CC1, Conservation.
Yes. CC1 for the, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your patience, too. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for having us.
Thank you for being here.
See you soon.
So now, this is CC1 for the Conservation Commission, $5,228. It's approval to use a deep waste reduction grant. So, department, so I move that.
I'll second it.
The department head, Patricia Sesto, presented the item to the committee. This is department head for Conservation Commission. She requested approval to use $5,288 of grant proceeds from the Connecticut Deep Waste Reduction Program for the reduction of waste in the community. Specifically, the program proceeds being appropriated into the Conservation Commission will be used within the school's budget for the purchase of sorting stations at 7 district schools and a new 23-week pilot program of organics hauling at New Lebanon School. Ms. Sesto was joined by Ms. Julie Deschamps from Waste Free Greenwich in explaining how the monies would be used. The chair stated that she felt the use of funds should be under the purview of the Department of Public Works. She explained the NIPS, and these are these little bottles that now people are charged for deposits for the little bottles, will now be removed from the DPW waste disposal recycling dumpsters where they generated revenue for the DPW waste disposal budget, and that environmental measures are being addressed in the waste disposal division with additional Holly Hill staff monitoring the user entrance at recycling, and in the highway department with the addition of new storm drains and filters. She asked that the proposed program, especially the new organics hauling program at New Lebanon School, would increase operating costs for schools. The schools was not there present to respond. The committee voted 2-1-1 to accept the proceeds of $5,288 from the Deep Waste Reduction Grant and appropriate the funds for waste reduction in the Greenwich Public School system. I would also just like to add to this, Mr. Chair, that this is a grant. This was done under a grant program. There was already an approved budget resolution for the Conservation Commission, and so it was done under that. And, you know, this is the first of payments that will probably come in approximately twice a year, and they come in, I believe, from the distributor of these little bottles. So that's
Thanks. I just like to add 2 things. One is I just want to note for particularly RTM members that since this is under a resolution and it's and the small dollar amount, this is not, it's not a mistake. This is not going to the RTM either way. And second is, I do intend to support this item. I mean, I did listen to the Budget Committee discussion, and I do think that there needs to be, at a future date, a discussion about long-term, how this, these funds are going to be really used, but, I do intend to support this item. So, any other discussion? Jeff?
It does occur to me that maybe the minutes could reflect that the meeting has been attended by Mrs. Deschamps. And if there's anybody, I don't think there's any questions, but if somebody had a question, probably Mrs. Deschamps could probably respond to the question. But the minutes should reflect that she attended the meeting.
Okay, thank you, that's fine. And then, can I just, Laura, and then you, Leslie?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to bring out a couple of points, just for the public record. The BET was given an email by Pat Sesta with a little more information. I just wanted to get it in the minutes. First, the use of these monies does comply with the intent of the legislation. It was determined between the town administrator, the Conservation Commission, and DPW that for this particular tranche, this was a good use of funds to expand an already successful pilot program, which has seen a 55% drop in solid waste, which is obviously part of the intent of the legislation. This is, as Ms. Tarkington points out, we probably get this twice a year. We may use it for different purposes in the future. There should be conversations. But to address another point, I believe the question was asked and answered at the Budget Committee that the use of the funds is really for the bins and the sorting bins. All of the training, working with the school children, has been done by volunteers. So as always, we thank those volunteers who choose to contribute to their time and effort for a very worthy cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, this is, in many ways, this is a department doing something with another department, but, by not having the Board of Education present for this particular presentation concerned me about similar union issues. The cafeteria workers are GMEA, and, again, it was unclear that, particularly, I think, in the New Lebanon School, where they're going to be, I'm sorry? They're going to be organics and sorting and so forth and so on. I do think that these kind of issues should be addressed with the respect that our represented employees deserve. And I think it's disappointing that a department, if they want to give money to another department, doesn't have that department present in the meeting. So I wanted to make that point, too.
Any other questions, comments? Can we go to a vote? Okay. Nisha?
I'll start with Harry. I'll start with you, Harry. Harry Fisher?
Yeah, vote no, please.
Laura Erickson?
Yes.
Karen Fascilotis?
I'm going to abstain.
David Weisbrod?
Yes.
I'm going to vote yes. Dan?
Yes.
Leslie Tarkington?
No.
Leslie Moriarty?
Yes.
Jeff Framer?
Yes.
Bill Drake?
Yes.
Miriam Cruiser?
Yes.
Steven Zelpst?
Yes.
So I have 9-1.
Okay.
The motion passes.
That item passes. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Our assessors report, item 5. I hope you were properly entertained.
I've been watching the Queen's funeral services. I've been quite entertained.
How appropriate.
Well, my great-grandmother is from Scotland, so I feel obligated to watch. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow members of the BET. I'd like to present the assessor's report for September 2022. Since our July meeting, the tax bills were sent out in July. They were due August 1st, and that's basically the final step for the 2021 revaluation done. The litigation that arose out of that, out of the 2021 revaluation so far, we have 19 residentials. We did settle one, but we also found an additional residential tax appeal that was missed in my original count in July. So we had 19, I reported to you in July. We settled one, but then we had to add one. We had 49 commercial properties filed tax appeals, of which so far 3 have been withdrawn. We are now going to start the 2025 revaluation. And we started it in July and August, and we have people in the field who are starting to measure and inspect those homes that we have not been to since prior to 2015. We've completed that, and now we're working on the houses that we last were inspected in 2016. We are also working on the 2022 grand list. The week of September 26th, we will be sending out personal property declarations to all businesses in town. Those will be due back to the assessor's office by November 1st. We're completing all review of all building permits and new construction in town. We should have that done by December 1st, and we will have those figures for you on the 2022 grand list when I sign it at the end of January. Does anybody have any questions for me this evening?
Excellent.
So I move that we,
Yep.
so I move that we accept the assessors report.
Seconded.
Okay. Can we accept that with unanimous consent?
Yes.
Okay. It's not that we're not incredibly interested, but we've been
I'm
running
fine
late.
with that.
Thank you. The
Thank you, Lauren.
the next item, 6, the controller's report. Peter Minarski.
This is all right. Good evening, everyone. The Controller's Report, I'll start out with the page 1 in the ARPA. It's noted in here that the state OPM was holding back the $6.1 million in paragraph 1. I wrote this report and issued it on Friday, and I got an email Friday afternoon that they are going to release the monies as of October 3rd. Also is to help you through the monthly report, I will start issuing what is known as the appropriation statement. It will be attached, and it details the $3.4 million in where the previous year's spending and the current year's spending by different category. It includes the 19 sub-recipients, and examples would be the orchestra, TAG, and the other 17 recipients. As far as the Affordable Trust, it's before the RTM as we speak tonight. What it's basically going to do is just bring it into conformance with the BET conditions. So the declaration of trust and the ordinance is going to be updated tonight by the RTM. Couple more comments. Number one is, as you know, we've had a number of vacancies in the finance department. And we lost the accounts payable supervisor on May 26th this year, but last fiscal year. And she has decided she wants to come back, and she's starting next Monday.
Well done, Peter. Well done.
She takes the pressure off the chief accountant, who's very busy with Roland, Natasha, and myself with the year-end audit. And she'll get right back into the TCM as far as project management. I had one more. I found out at 4:30 today that we got the certificate of conformance, and there was a press release from the GFOA. It's an important an award. It deals with the financial report that we submit each year, and that document has to be in strict compliance with the requirements for the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. So we did get it this year, and I'd like to personally thank Roland, Maureen Tracy, and Natasha, my treasurer, who get us through the audit each year, and they help me put that document together. So what I'll do at this point is open it up to any questions in the Controller's Report.
Pete, first I'd like to, on behalf of the board, I want to congratulate you and your team for the award. Clearly the work in your department is done at an incredibly high level, and it's nice to see, people outside of Greenwich appreciate that. So again, congratulations to
Thank you.
Before I open up to other questions, you were talking about staffing and vacancies. I believe we also have a vacancy in the assistant budget director. I just want to make sure that the
We have
board-
four vacancies. The obvious one is Kathy, who sat there for 10 years. The minute taker is not, here, and it's very difficult. We're unable to replace her. The Martha, the accounts payables supervisor, is vacancy number 2. And we lost Agnes Kawai, who was helped out Roland. She worked for approximately 1 full year. We spent a lot of time training her. We closed on the applications Friday, and I think we had, 10 applications? So we'll go through the interview process. Hopefully, we could find somebody out of that batch. And unfortunately, the fourth one is not a vacancy. It's, we have a cash receipts person is out on FMLA for an extended period of time. So we got one back, and hopefully we'll get at full strength. So that's the answer to your question.
Any questions? Jeff?
It does raise an interesting point. Is it your feeling that we're losing people because better compensation is available to them elsewhere?
In the case of the assistant budget director, it was a strange sequence of events. Her and a close friend of her worked for the city of Stamford. The close friend left the city of Stamford and went to the city of Norwalk and was hired up there. And a former finance director for the Nathaniel Witherall, who left us 3 years ago, ended up in Norwalk as the budget director. So the budget director, who was new and green in the job, needed some type of assistance. So he went to the person who was a friend of Agnes in Stamford and said, this person's available. She helped out, and there was a vacancy, and he took her. Now, to answer your question, in that case there, it was definitely a case of, beside friendship and much more money up there in Norwalk. The second one was the accounts payable, who also, it was a combination of more money, a better health care benefit, and she returned to the state of New York pension system. However, we did such a good job of taking care of her and working well with her that she wanted to come back. But to answer your question on those two, it was definitely more money. Kathy just left the, Kathy Cedar just simply left the area, and that was.
And with the difficulty of hiring replacements, is it a question where you feel like maybe the salary offering is not adequate to draw good people? Are you having that experience? I'll tell you what, actually, the right place to be discussing that would be at the HR committee.
Yes.
And so maybe I won't ask these questions here, but encourage the HR committee at the appropriate time to be giving consideration to whether or not what we do in this town is competitive for holding good people and attracting good people.
Stay tuned. The HR committee is discussing all of that.
Okay, thank you.
With urgency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, through you, just to follow up is, we were talking about unionized positions, in LIUNA and in those two positions. That actually is a topic at the HR committee for management and confidential, the M&Cs. So that actually is we are looking at that. When I say we, HR and the town administrator, it is a concern. So it's something that we're actively looking at.
But that work relates just to the managerial and confidential employees, or is it more broad than that?
I can't, in the case, if I may, in the case of the M&Cs, the management and confidential, the people at the very bottom are crucial, and I can give you examples. As Shira Davis is in our office, Teresa over in HR, and you have Angie. There's one in the police department whose name escapes me right now. This is where this started, where the creep is coming up. They're MCs, so they're being approached by the union people. So they're actually getting caught up or exceeded. So that's where that issue came up as far as inequity.
Compression.
Exactly. And you may have been around long enough for the Hay
Oh,
study.
I've been around forever. Okay,
Here I meant.
okay, sorry, sorry.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's an issue which is probably going to,
So I'll leave what I said before. That would be a good thing for the HR committee to be looking at, and I'm glad
definitely,
they are.
yes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the Comptroller's report?
Second.
Leslie Tarkington, seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Any objections? Passes 12-0. Next item, number 7, Treasurer's Report.
Okay, the treasurer's report, the general fund is doing well. We've just, we went through the tax period in July and August. In the OPEB trust, we had a very good July and we had a not so good August, but we netted still, we were managed to make over, through appreciation, over $1 million. The capital projects are doing well. We're at a $52 million balance. As far as the capital non-recurring, what you'll notice here is during the budget process last year, we decided to move $8 million out. And you can see where the starting balance was almost $12.5 million. It's still a healthy $5 million, so we're doing well there. We do manage to replenish it with the closing of the capital projects that are taxed for, not bonded. So that capital non-recurring is still in good shape. Parking fund is starting to get stressed a little bit as far as the fund balance coming down, and it actually would be an active topic for the Budget Committee in the month of February in the budget process. Sewer maintenance, that's another, last year in the budget process, we decided to take $5 million out of fund balance to help get some tax relief for the sewer properties. The risk fund, it doesn't seem to move much, even though you had a couple of items today. It's still at about $4 million. The golf course, 2.9, as reported, they had a very good year, the last year and the year before. So their fund balance is way over $2 million, which is good for the size of that fund. And then basically, as I mentioned before with the ARP, you've got a balance of 15.9, but you're going to get another 6.1 in a couple of weeks. So I'll take any questions on the treasurer's report.
Any questions?
Move that we,
Okay, I just make one comment. Peter and Natasha have been working really hard over the summer to, just kind of try to react to the increase in the yield levels for short-term treasuries, and, I think they've worked really hard. Being more proactive about improving the returns does not really increase risk, but it does take more work on Natasha's part and Pete's part, so I'd like to commend them for putting the effort in there. It'll definitely show up in our economics and in our budget, so thank you.
so I move that we accept the treasurer's report?
I'll second.
Okay, we got Stephen second.
Stephen, second? Okay.
Any objections? Okay. Accept the 12-0-0. Okay, the next item, okay. So item 8, BET Standing Committee reports. We have. Sorry. Next item is 8, BET Standing Committee reports, and Harry's going to make a brief audit report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I shared the draft minutes of the September Audit Committee meeting with our members, and they're posted on the town's website. But for the benefit of the public, I'm going to highlight some of the important points regarding the financial issues at Nathaniel Witherell. In mid-August, it came to light that T&W receivables had doubled from the end of June 21 at about 4.5 million to 9.5 million at the end of June 2022. And of that, almost $3 million was beyond 210 days of aging. As of the end of the July, that 9.5 has increased to 10 million. And please understand that TNW does not maintain its own operating capital and deposit accounts. The revenues and expenses are run through the town's general fund, so this is a hit on the general fund. Pete Minarski, Roland Geiger, and I called on TNW to address the deficiency in collections and to attend the audit committee meeting referenced above. In response to that call in August, TNW's finance director, on his own, engaged a firm called A&R Recoveries to collect all outstanding receivables, regardless of age. In 5 days, it collected $758,000 of Medicare obligations at a cost of 18%, or $136,000. One obligation was only 5 weeks old. The contract was terminated as having not followed town purchasing procedure, and the law department subsequently advised that it was not in legal order to be approved. That all happened in August. Then we had the audit committee meeting for which the draft minutes are available. As an aside, we also learned at the audit committee meeting, excuse me, that the TNW finance director issued an RFP through purchasing for new software to replace its matrix system, something not known to anyone connected with the TNW board or our finance department until it came to light as part of the cybersecurity report. In numerous meetings and discussions with Larry Simon, chair of TNW board, since the audit committee meeting, we have tried to work towards solutions to the receivables problem. We also brought Ben Branyan up to speed on the issues. Some of the receivables, particularly related to Medicaid, will age out at the end of calendar 2022. Last week, the TNW finance director met with the Health Dimensions Group, HGG group, that did the last study of TNW to see if it could assist with the receivables matter. Instead, it was decided to engage again A&R Recoveries to do the following if it can be done at a lower cost than originally contracted. Collect expiring Medicaid claims, explain to TNW personnel what was done to correct and collect the Medicare claims above and what billing errors were made. A&R will be engaged if TNW can get an exemption from the town's bidding process. Happy to take any questions, but this is a very significant problem.
Any questions? Okay. Yes, Laura?
Thank you, Harry, and thank you to the audit committee and to Pete and Roland for identifying this issue and following up. I just wanted to make one point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the collections firm was originally recommended by an auditing firm that works closely with Nathaniel Witherell, PKF,
It was
Davies O'Connor.
one of numerous firms that were not recommended but suggested by O'Connor Davies.
I just wanted to make note that it came through a trusted source. The comment was made that it was done unilaterally, and I just wanted to make the point that there was a list.
But it's important to know that it was important to note that it was suggested, not recommended, and it was one of a number of firms they suggested.
Okay. Yes, Jeff and then Steve.
I mean, all the observations that have been made are correct, and the minutes reflect the events of the day, and I recommend the minutes. The one piece that Harry could have mentioned maybe that should be added was we have asked Nathaniel Witherell to come back to us at our next meeting, which is in, I think, the 7th of October. It's in early October, which means not very far away. It's not necessarily clear that they'll accomplish all these things, but among the things that we've asked them to come back and report to us are, number one, to first show us a clear path that they're going to develop in-house, the ability to be policing and collecting receivables that should be collected in-house and not through an outside agency. Number two, to come back to us with a policy of under what circumstances will they be using collection agencies. And we suggested to them that logically that policy would be broken down by the payer class that's involved: self-pay, insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid. Lastly, the chair had, when I say the chair, I'm talking about the chair of the audit committee, Harry Fisher, had asked that they develop, with the assistance from purchasing, an RFP to be used going forward, so that we're not retaining the services outside of the normal required form. And it's our general understanding that they're working on those things. With a little good luck, they'll actually be responding to us with some clear detail, particularly on the first one, that it didn't appear to us, didn't appear to me anyway, that they had a developed process for collecting on receivables in-house, and that was certainly a curious thing that we wanted to see resolved. Harry, I hope I did justice by that. If I
Yeah.
didn't, you'll say something.
I think so, and I would just also note that it's noted in what Jeff just spoke of is largely noted in the minutes, as is the fact that there was serious training deficiencies and capabilities among the staff of the finance department of Nathaniel Witherell.
Stephen, thank you, Jeff.
These concerns are very real, and I guess in addition to the points that were just raised by Mr. Raymer, I question whether there's awareness at Nathaniel Witherell about the need to comply with town policies, particularly on the use of outside vendors. I mean, one of the many shocking things you said was that there was no RFP when they hired this. I mean, is that part of the response that you're expecting from the staff? Is a formal policy on utilization of the RFPs?
Well, it's also why I noted that they did an RFP for the software package. So they obviously knew that there is a process and procedure for procurement. But I think they just felt under the gun. This is the only explanation I can offer. And, they're trying to collect this money before it ages out and is uncollectible. And I think that's why my note about, they're trying to engage A&R to collect the Medicaid, because it's the Medicaid that ages out on a calendar year basis, I gather.
And then just something to add, just to give some context, is what's interesting here is when you pay 18% of a collection, let's just say I think right now it's around 11 million, we'll call it 10 million. That's $1.8 million. So what's interesting there, of course, and maybe Pete can add to this, is that by signing a contract like that, they're effectively telling us that 1.8 million of that revenue that you thought you had as a receivable, you're not going to get, right? You're going to pay it out. So it's not as if this is a contract being signed for, $80,000 for consulting or $25,000. It's a variable number, and it can be a very large number. And I think that's one of the reasons why, Pete really identified as something we need to look into. Do you have anything to add, Pete?
No.
Just a couple of points is, if I could just go back a little bit to follow up to Laura's point. The problem started when the billing clerk left in September of last year, and there was a direct correlation between her leaving and the receivables going up. A year ago, the receivables were $4,861,000. They climbed to somewhere around $10 million. One of the biggest problems is that aside from the billing being deficient, they have a system called Matrix up there. It's the billing system they use to collect the different categories. I think there's 5 major categories: Medicare, Medicaid, you got private pay, insurance, et cetera. They haven't reconciled it in the last 3 years. We've been paying PKF O'Connor Davies to come in and reconcile it June 30th, 20, June 30th, 21, June 30th, 22. The problem, it start to get out of hand, and we actually, Roland and I started looking at it in June, and we brought the chairman of the Nathaniel Witherell in on it, and we talked about it. And now this is a little bit of guesswork on my part. I think there was a sense of panic up there, and they needed to do something. And again, to Laura's point, they reached out to PKF O'Connor Davies and say, who's out there, okay? The person who reached out didn't have the expertise or the knowledge in the industry to know who was out there. this person recommended, I'm sorry, didn't recommend, he strongly didn't recommend, named 2 or 3 or 4. In a sense of panic, they hired him in August, and this is in Harry's report, and in 1 week, 5 days, they collected over $700,000, and we owe them $136,000. Where we're at right now is the firm is A&R. It's a retired person who was very good at what they did years ago. She was able to come in and do this very sharply and efficiently. What we're trying to do now, I should say, not we, but Nathaniel Witherall, is they want to do a bid waiver to get A&R back and train the staff. And it would be better, instead of paying 18% a year, if we spend a few $1,000s to have this person train the current billing clerk. We should be doing it in-house. We can't afford 18%. And the urgency is the receivables that are going to fall off is you've got a choice. They fall off, you get 0, or you get this firm to come in for 18% and you get a lot less. But I think the most important part of this is we got to get the staff trained and cross-trained in case somebody leaves. So that's where we are right now. Now, there's just one more follow-up beside the A&R recoveries. The staff up there has contacted HDG, Health Dimensions Group, for people who went around 10 years ago when we hired them. They're going to put a proposal forward, too, to train the staff. So that's where we are right now as far as priority number 1 is train our staff to do the billing.
Thank you.
Just make one more note that I'm remembering from an email that Larry Simon sent me is that because the staff up there, they're short. They've got 1 person and they should have 2.5. And that 1 person also has to field a lot of calls from patients about billing issues and things like that. They're going to reorient the staff such that that 1 person, whose name is Sasha, doesn't have to deal with the public. And I think they're going to load that onto the finance director to deal with the public to try to improve the efficiency much as they can.
Okay. Oh, thank you. No. I just want to see if there are any other questions, or we can move on.
These issues, which are significant, lead to a need for an audit of the withdrawal. When I was previously, the audit committee examined, for example, the student activity funds. Well, that's less than $1 million. We audited the rink. That's about $600,000 in revenues. This is $30 million in revenues and a $10 million receivable asset alone. And all these issues just cry out for an audit. You want to help them, which we all do. When the time comes, in the audit committee, not today, I'll make a recommendation that we should do an internal audit of the withdrawal. Pete talked about it a little bit. Jeff Ziplo says it's not within his strike zone or whatever, but the firm has people, or we should find someone. But these issues are much larger than other audits we've done that were productive. It's calling for this. For another day, really, but go ahead, Pete.
Thank you. Anything to add to that, Pete?
Yeah, I can follow up with that. About a month ago, I approached Clifton Larson and Allen, CLA, and asked them, you all know Jeff Ziplo and Lindsay and Terry. Does your team have the expertise to do this? And they said, definitely not, but they have a group that specializes in nursing homes, okay? And I said, we're talking about a limited scope. We're looking at the billing only, not the overall operations. This was about a month ago. At Harry's meeting, the audit committee, we learned that there was an existing RFP to replace the billing system, which presents a problem for audit purposes. So I reapproached Jeff Ziplo with CLA, and I said, we're still interested in an audit, but I asked him, as a matter of fact, I spoke with him this morning, would it make any sense to audit a billing system if you're throwing it out and replacing it with another auditing. So at this point, they're ready. They have a specialist that I can contact as soon as I figure out what they're doing up there with the billing system. If you're going to dramatically change the whole billing system, the auditors come in and they audit a period of time where we knew there was problems in internal controls, and they make recommendations. They might be making recommendations on the prior billing system. Now, this matrix system is like 2004 is when we hired them, and they haven't done an RFP since. So potentially, it could be an obsolete system. It's not state of the art. So to answer, it's a long roundabout way of answering it. It's on hold until we figure out what they're doing up there and they get their arms around the billing system. Otherwise, we don't want to audit a system that's going to disappear. So that's where we are now with the audit.
Thank you. And just one last comment, obviously, on the audit. Oh, yes, Laura.
Sorry, I was not on the audit. I was just looking at the RFP, which I think closes this week. Are you or anyone from the Finance Committee on the evaluation committee for the new software? Or if not, could I make a request that perhaps somebody from the Finance Committee should be represented?
We actually had is it all right if I answer, Harry? Because you were part of this. Yeah, we actually met a couple Fridays ago, Harry, Larry Simon, Maureen, Roland, and myself, and we volunteered, and Larry gladly said yes. He said, you can be part of it. So we weren't probably written into the evaluation team, but I think what he's offering us is to review the RFPs if they go through with the process. So either directly or indirectly, we're part of it, meaning finance.
Okay. And I just want to note, we use the term "we" a lot here because we're all at this, we're all town of Greenwich. But, from an audit point of view, and obviously the BET also has certain responsibilities in this, but ultimately, any of these operational issues or things that ultimately those decisions are with the board, Nathaniel, with our board and the town administrator in terms of those actions. But we will support them in any way we can. Thank you. I'm sorry, next item is the CMS Building Committee. Nisha, a brief report.
30 seconds. All right, well, for the benefit of the public, and because this is our first update, I'll just let everyone know it's a 9-member board, a 9-member committee, 7 of which have been selected and approved by the RTM, 1 from the Board of Ed, and of course, I'm the representative from the BET. So we had an initial meeting in July to confirm all our members, and then we've met weekly on Tuesdays. I think we've had about 6 or 7 meetings. Most of our discussions for the past few weeks have been primarily around creating and approving RFPs for both the architect and the owner's rep. And we've put forth an approved timeline, which is what I'll go over just now. So it's on August 26th, we put out two separate RFPs for both architectural services and for owner's rep. On September 8th, there was a mandatory walkthrough of CMS for those that were responding to the architectural RFP. On September 22nd, which I think is later this week, we will be opening up bids for the owner's rep, and we're targeting the week of September 27th for interviews and the week of October 4th to select a finalist for an owner's rep. And then we would expect an agreement to be signed shortly thereafter. The week of September, or on September 29th, we'll open up bids for architectural services, and we'll target early November to select the finalist. And really, I guess the only additional point here to mention this, there was a discussion around this at the committee that we made a conscious decision to hire the owner's rep ahead of the architect and allow the owner's rep to help assist in selecting the final architectural firm. And I think that's it. The CMS Building Committee meets tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., as it's Tuesday. And that's the update for now.
Thank you, Nisha. Okay, that was very helpful. And now we have Leslie Moriarty with the Greenwich High School Building Committee, which is the the security vestibule. Thank you.
Right, and I think I previously informed this board that the bids for the security vestibule project had exceeded the appropriation by a significant amount. So the building committee returned to the Board of Education to request direction. Does the Board of Ed want to ask for additional funding, or do they want to redesign, change the ed specs of the projects? So the Board of Ed has asked our building committee to see if the project can be redesigned to fit within the appropriation, which was $2.75 million, but still address the security objectives of the RFP, focusing on those. So at our last meeting, we approved a change order with our architect to develop an alternative. We expect that the size of the building will be a smaller footprint. The old building was about 2,000 square feet. We expect this one to be smaller and probably not as tall. We want to retain the vestibule component, so it prevents someone from entering directly into the building. They would be caught within a vestibule. And we expect to retain the redirection that when there are visitors after the start of school, that they enter the school through the administration office, not going directly into the glass corridor. The landscaping scope of the project was added by the P&Z during the approval process. We expect that the P&Z is going to continue to require the high school or the building committee to address the front landscaping when this project's done. But there has been a contribution already identified from the PTA, and they've expressed a willingness to help fund that part. They also expect the Tree Conservancy, they may also be able to assist with any funding for the landscaping. So once a building committee has a new design, we would need to return to the Board of Education and P&Z for approvals, as well as going back to the state for the reimbursement process. However, the state process should be easier because this project is expected to cost less than the original appropriation, which was approved.
Thank you. Any questions for Leslie? Okay, hearing none. I think that's, approval of item 14, approval of the BET regular committee meeting minutes of July 18. Okay. Stephen moves those minutes. We have a second. Second. Leslie Moriarty. Any objections? That passes. Yeah.
Sorry,
Laura, yes.
I had one.
Of course.
I pointed it out to Nisha and Peter. On TC, we did an item for the town clerk. It's labeled as TC2. It should be TC1. Because tonight we approved TC2.
Thank you.
And sorry, you skipped over item 11, old business. I don't know if you're...
That is a more procedural issue, as we know. Yeah. Oh, yeah, can we just finish the vote here? Okay. Any objections to the minutes? With Laura's correction, thank you. That passes 12-0. The reason that the old business is there, as you know, we did approve and encumber the 15,000 funds for construction estimator. The follow-up was to have hopefully a one-page description of how that would be executed, approved, a little more specifics on how it would be used. And that did fall upon me at some point, and I didn't do it. The reason it's still there is Mr. Bernowski felt that old business should stay on the list, even if we weren't going to actually take a vote for that day. So I would expect that to happen in October. I would also add that the estimation process would likely be in conjunction with or in response to some of the things we hear from the building committee in any case. So hopefully that timing does not cause an issue. Okay. I was going to do a chair report, but it's 9:33. So I will defer.
I move we adjourn, sir.
Yeah.
Second.
Any objections? Adjourn at 9:33. Thank you, everybody. Good day.
Well, 5-0.